What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Culture FC, the weekly soccer show where we actually don't discuss any soccer. We talk culture, lifestyle, politics, music, all of the culturally significant topics, but none of the stuff happening on the pitch. I'm Alan, and I'm here with Louie and Brendan. And this week, we talked about some awesome topics. The biggest topic being FIFA. You've heard of FIFA, the video game. You've probably seen it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, some type of reaction of people losing or winning a FIFA game. We want to discuss how important that FIFA phenomenon has been for the growth of the sport, both in the U.S. and internationally. Be sure to follow our Culture FC Instagram account, newly created. It's at culturef.c. We post a bunch of snippets and previews, behind-the-scenes stuff that goes into the podcast. So I'd really enjoy it if you could give us a follow. As always, if you like the podcast, leave us that 5-star review, share it with your friends, tell your mom, tell your dad, and let's get into it.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
You know, despite the weather, pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty
I feel like
good.
weather is like the topic that we always come to in the show, but it's so
It's
freaking-
poignant in soccer, though, is
it's
it
so
not?
changing. Like every single time we come in here, it's either 70 degrees or then it's after a snowstorm.
Yeah,
But it doesn't
the
really affect-
facilities have kept the fans off this week, which is nice.
Yeah,
Thank you, FSU gods.
Well, last week it was like 80 degrees
Yeah, it
in
was-
this room.
oh.
And you guys watching this video can't really tell, or can't really tell, but it was bad.
It was warm.
We go through quite a bit for you guys on the podcast. That's all we're saying. But all right, guys, let's hop into this week's episode. I got the 5 newsworthy items of the week. Start off with something pretty interesting. Romelu Lukaku joins Rock Nation, which, if you don't know, Rock Nation is the sports agency run by Jay-Z. It's really interesting because I believe he's the first Premier League player to sign with Rock Nation, and I don't know if he has any other soccer players signed. I could have probably done a little bit better research. I didn't. I'm sorry. But
It's his life.
I think it's really cool that Romelu Lukaku was one of the first players to join Rock Nation, especially because he's big into the hip hop scene. He's been seen at like basketball games, and usually Jay-Z has quite a lot of basketball players in Rock Nation, and so it's really, really cool to see them be able to start to grow their influence and start to attract these Premier League players, because they are superstars. So I think that, Rock Nation wants to be the top, sports agency. You're going to have to get some of the big boys from the biggest sport in the world. And I think it's pretty awesome that Lukaku...
Is LeBron James a part of Rock Nation?
No, but I don't know. I'm looking now. Kevin Durant is.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, right. It was Kevin Durant. I remember LeBron and Jay-Z are just really good friends. That's where I associated that. But that's pretty cool. Victor Cruz as well, right? He's a Rock Nation. I think so.
That doesn't surprise me, though, at all. Especially because he was in New York. So I think it makes perfect sense.
Jerome Boateng.
Oh, so there is another
Yeah,
soccer
there's
player.
anher.
Yeah.
That's the only
sweet.
one I
He's not
see.
Prem. Right? So
Yeah.
that's
Bundes-
But
I
he's
mean,
still-
yeah,
I'm
Bundesliga
saying like,
champion.
yeah, you said Lukaku's still definitely the first Prem
Yeah,
player,
but
I think.
Lukaku isn't even on the
Probably-
highlights yet.
yeah.
So it's probably
What happened like a couple days, like
Yeah.
a week ago?
Yeah.
what's next? His EP's gonna come out soon. Jeez.
Yeah, given the trend in world soccer, probably.
Wow. Interesting. Does his current agent, does he just drop his current agent that he had?
Probably. Yeah.
Huh.
So what do we think of the impact of this going forward?
I feel like people don't normally care all that much if a player changed, at least in like Europe, that like when they change agencies, it's not like big, but I guess here it could do a little bit of something,
Sorry to
maybe
interrupt.
more advertising.
Right, so I was going to say, in terms of switching a regular agent, that's like usually not big newsworthy, but switching to something like Rock Nation, which kind of has a lot of star power behind it.
That's true.
And, being located I believe their offices are in New York, so it's like very, America-based. Does that change your opinion a little bit or no?
A little bit. I think with the fact that Jay-Z does own Rock Nation, so like that is something. I think he'll be seen more in. I feel like the music industry might even.
I
see
feel
it
like
more.
Lukaku loves the U.S. I mean, we saw him here this summer, and he was kind of living it up in L.A. We saw that he was kind of partying and got in trouble for it, but he seems to really like L.A. I think that the U.S. is obviously a big market in general, and so contacting a big sports agent, especially one owned by Jay-Z, where you're an athlete and you want to grow your brand and your image as a person off the field, it makes a lot of sense and probably one of the best connections to have out there. So I think it's cool. We'll see now if his kind of social, because he's actually not that active on social media. I follow him obviously on all of his accounts, and he'll post every now and then, but it's none of that scripted like ad specific posting that he does that you see a lot of players do. So it'll be interesting to see if that changes at all, and if it kind of looks like it's more targeted toward an American audience.
I'm really excited to see what it does for the culture. You know what I mean? Having Jay-Z in the mix with, being able to bring Romelu Lukaku to concerts and being able to put him in front of American audiences is really going to boost soccer, hopefully.
It's good leverage for, his MLS debut too.
Yeah.
So you're saying in a couple of years if he comes to the MLS?
Yeah. I think that's a cool point you bring up, because I remember when Jay-Z performed here at Fenway, there was it was an iconic, but it was a mini iconic picture of Kevin Durant and a few other sports athletes sitting front row smoking cigars at the Jay-Z concert here at Fenway.
That's
so
crazy.
It sparked a little bit of buzz and kind of culturally significant imagery per se. So that'd be that. I mean,
image boost,
maybe Booth has a concert and brings Lukaku out, flies him out, whatever. So right. I think it definitely plays a role. It'll be cool to see the progression of Lukaku.
Yeah, and if Lukaku ever makes a debut for the New England Revs in like 8 years, that'll be pretty cool. So take a look at that.
He's not
going down that quickly.
Oh no! Well, as I said, 10 years. He's only 24, so by the time he's 34,
he's our age. Dang.
And the guy's about to hit 100 Premier League goals tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sorry. So moving along. A good friend of the MLS, Carlos Valderrama, says that he will shave his iconic hair if Colombia win the World Cup. Carlos Valderrama, for all of you who don't know, which if you live in the United States and don't know and love soccer and don't know who Carlos Valderrama is, then I feel bad for you. Iconic Colombian player, amazing hair, always looked fly on the field. Says that if Colombia win the World Cup, he will shave his hair. Now, we could get into a topic of how likely we think Colombia is to win a World Cup. I think their team is very, very good. But what do you guys think?
I always love things like this because they're so irrelevant, but they're also so funny. Just because, him saying that isn't gonna affect the players. No, Thomas Rodriguez does not give a shit about.
Yo, dude, he's gonna share.
Guys, we have to win.
They're down 1-0 to some team. Dude, we have to win this. It's really important.
Carlos said he's gonna shave his hair
but
if we win.
At the same time, it does show. I think that even from people who have been there, have played on the highest stage, have fame for being professional soccer players, that they're super invested in this. When they're no longer a part of it. I mean, it means he knows that for his brand image and for who he is, that is a major part. So it's funny for me more because it shows that these celebrities can, not that they can, but they are very human in the sense. It's almost like the people you see get tattoos of their teams winning a championship before they have won it, and then they lose it in the final. So it's one of those types of things where it's an over-exaggeration of emotion and feeling that just brings these people kind of down to earth, which I enjoy.
Yeah. I personally think it would be hilarious if it happened, but I think it's almost just like him being like, "Hey world, I'm still relevant. If they win, I'll shave these hair. You guys remember me, right?
Guys, I'm still alive, guys."
I will say I haven't heard a word from him in years.
I didn't. So I thought he wasn't alive. Honestly, I didn't even know.
I equate this a lot to, you usually have this every couple of years, these sports. So there was I remember this specifically, a couple of years back, there was a sports reporter. She was a very fine-looking woman, very good-looking woman. She said she would run through the streets naked. I think if Argentina won the World Cup, and everybody was behind this. They were let's go Argentina for this woman to just run naked through the streets. It was very funny. Yeah. Moving right along to something a little bit more dire, and actually it's really sad. Fiorentina captain David Astori passed away last week at the team hotel right before a game. So, basically they were all together getting ready for the game, and he had a mysterious illness. I don't know if anything has come out about what exactly it was, but David Astori, the captain, passed away, the morning before a big, big game. That's incredibly sad all around, and it's crazy to think that, like, a guy who's 31 years old could just kind of, top physical shape, just kind of passes. I mean, it kind of goes to show, like, life can just kind of hit you out of nowhere. But ended up happening was the entire Liga Calcio, which is like the Italian league, they completely shut down for the weekend. And was something very interesting. Gennaro Gattuso, the coach from Milan, called, because it was supposed to be the Milan derby on Sunday. Mm-hmm. He called the manager of Inter and said, "Hey, we're not playing today." This was hours before the league had said we're not playing today. And he was like, "Yeah, we're not playing today." Yeah. And so, kind of crazy. A lot of people came out and paid respects to him. Even Gigi Buffon came out, and who never really posts much on the internet. He wrote a very heartfelt post on Instagram. And then one thing that was really, really cool is that Fiorentina are actually still honoring his contract and giving all of the money from his contract to his family.
I don't think that's true.
Is that not true?
No, unfortunately, that's news that came out, but it was fabricated. And I'm sure that they are still going to do something about it. I actually fell into the trap of thinking that this was true too, but I later found out that was something that was fabricated by some stupid Twitter account to kind of get traction on the website. Fiorentina came out and said that that's not true, but I also thought that this was the case. But yeah, I mean, in light of that and people taking advantage of that, I will say that it's been pretty amazing to see the reaction in the world. Chelsea played Man City the day after, I think, and you could see that Conte, aside from the game, was super defeated. He before the match and after, he kept referencing that and saying that it really wasn't a day to even really care about football, which you can understand. I honestly was surprised that he
didn't take a day off,
right, to do something like that. And it's been great to see yesterday at his actual what's the word? The word's escaping me. At his, I don't know if it was his funeral, but whatever.
The funeral procession when they were leaving.
Showed up. Yeah, funeral procession, correct. Fans, the thousands and thousands of fans showed up to the church that this was happening, and were singing Fiorentina songs and singing, kind of just backing
it was wild. I saw that video. It was crazy. Goosebumps.
Yeah, it was definitely something that gives you chills. But it's also been interesting to see the unity of the Italian players as a whole. I mean, commonly you'll see like a moment of silence and stuff like that, but I've never seen a match get called off for a player's death like that, unless, I don't know. But I haven't personally seen that, but it's been really good to see the unity, no matter, even in a hotly contested, a league that's very filled with rivals. It's been good to see that they could put that aside and kind of honor this man's life.
Yeah, I think it was cardiac arrest. It was like a heart attack in his sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's devastating, and I've never before. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't lived through being a part of like watching soccer and having a player who was a captain who died during a season.
We've seen instances where players die like on the field. I think a couple of years ago there was one who died on the field, right?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And that was a big thing. I don't know if that was the African player. I can't remember, but I've definitely seen it.
I guess the last time I do remember is the Brazilian team who died in
that type of tragedy. Yeah, but that again, I don't want to compare the number of lives.
Exactly.
Still, that tragedy differences there are big, but yeah, I mean, it's been good to see the unity, and it's cool, obviously from a fans' perspective, to put all of that aside and realize that we all are
human beings
at the end of the day,
not just money makers.
Yeah, and here supporting a club. So, yeah.
All right, moving right along. So the NASL, the North American Soccer League, has officially called off the 2018 season. So originally they had filed a lawsuit against U.S. Soccer that went to Superior Court, and they had to appeal it and all this stuff. And originally NASL was going to just move their 2018 season into the fall. But then as they were trying to appeal this or whatever, ended up that the court sided with U.S. Soccer. And so what happened was Nassau then had to essentially postpone their season for the year, and it's looking like the league might even fold, which is really, really bad. And so basically it stinks because the season was supposed to start, right now. And they had to have a couple of teams have to try and continue to scramble to find places to play or a league to play in, and they have a pretty big wage bill for that league because they used to be the Division II, and so they actually paid players quite a bit, and so they are scrambling to find a place for these teams to continue to play and things like that. The only team I know of that was part of them that actually was able to find a league to play in was the Jacksonville Armada. And so I don't know if any of the other teams are able to continue playing for the season, which is, and all I'm saying is this is pretty sad that Nassau has been reduced to this because they were on the up for quite a couple of years. And, last year it's kind of been on the downswing, but it's just sad to see.
Weren't there a couple new teams trying to get into Nassau too?
Yeah, and they were starting to come back up and have a couple more teams, and unfortunately they weren't able to compete this year and probably won't be around for much longer.
Wow.
Yeah, this is one of those things where when we talked about the new presidents coming in and doing stuff to not only promote promotion relegation, but promote soccer as a whole in the country, it's one of the things that needs to be addressed because no matter what, we can call for promotion relegation, but if the leagues below it aren't sustainable, it's one of the topics that a lot of the candidates brought up. Sure, we'd like to bring this promotion relegation system into the country, but if we don't have leagues, if we only have one real league that can sustain it, it doesn't really make sense. So it is unfortunate. I think that it's something that has to be addressed from the biggest umbrella of soccer in the country because you can't just start losing off all of these leagues and teams, these players that have invested their lives into these teams and then have that be torn down and then expect people to kind of just pick up another team, for example. So that process of building culture is something that is a lengthy process, and then if all of a sudden you just lose that in a matter of months, it can be pretty detrimental.
Right, I agree with everything. I agree with pretty much everything you just said. It definitely, sustainability is 100% important. I just think that what Nassau would argue and what a lot of people would argue is that the U.S. Soccer turned their back on them. U.S. Soccer decided to look at USL as the Division II and provide zero support for Nassau. And so that's just one counter argument. Yeah. They're saying that if U.S. Soccer had potentially helped them and accepted them as the second division, then they wouldn't have had an issue of having to fold or things like that. Then again, that's just an opinion. No one knows if it's a business decision that they couldn't keep the league running or whatever. That's a whole other aside. But just wanted to put that out there too.
Agree.
Well, cool. I think that kind of wraps up this week's topics, and we can move on to the big one.
Okay. Yeah, so this week we're going to be talking about FIFA, the video game.
That we're not great at.
Yeah, definitely not great at. But
if you've seen our live over the last month, or a couple weeks ago, we did a live and did not go very well, we'll say. We
lost some merchandise. For anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, we often do these video game challenges where we kind of hop on Instagram Live, hop on the internet, broadcast ourselves playing FIFA. We challenge some of our fans and followers on our social media. If they beat us, they get free stuff. And needless to say, we've given out a lot of free stuff so far. But yeah, FIFA, I mean, for anyone kind of in our generation growing up, FIFA has been a major part of the sport.
Yeah.
I think that even people that don't know soccer really know what FIFA is when they hear it, mostly in terms of video game. But kind of to break it up and make it more digestible for the listener, we're going to break it up today in terms of player perspective, fan perspective, and then bring it in as a whole and kind of discuss what this means overall for the culture of soccer. So let's get into it and kind of describe from a player's perspective. It's weird to say, but there are a lot of advantages to playing FIFA and being seen in FIFA, right? I mean, we've seen players come out and complain about their ratings. They tweet at FIFA. Or EA Sports even has a YouTube channel where they go and have players react to their reviews on in the game every time a new version comes out, which I find hilarious because sometimes they'll put people there who they have a lower ranking. Like, anything in FIFA lower than 80 overall ranking, you're going to get some type of good reaction.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really interesting to see players react to that. And I want to know kind of your thoughts on what you think it means for players as a whole.
So I think that for players, I think it's really cool because in a way it allows them to. These things are usually it's hard to describe, but it essentially creates a quote-unquote hierarchy of players based on a statistical rating, which, it's up to FIFA to decide these statistical ratings. And every year, a big contentious point is who has the highest rating. Is it Cristiano Ronaldo? Is it Messi? Who has the highest rating? And it's like, these things are completely objective. Yeah. But because there is a de facto game that everybody in the world is playing, it becomes basically people's way of gauging and reacting to who the best player in the world is. Yeah. You have players who just play FIFA who have never watched a game, but they swear on their lives that Cristiano Ronaldo is better than Messi or Messi is better than Cristiano Ronaldo. Based solely on the fact that, in one game Ronaldo will be a 91 and Messi will be a 90. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, there's this whole generation of players who it's the whole statistical analysis part of the game, which is very interesting to me. And it kind of carries itself through, like you were saying, with players who are ranked below 80, getting really pissed off that they're below 80. Really funny video I remember watching of Mishi Batshuayi talking to the Copa 90 guys, and they were talking, like, revealing his FIFA rating, and he, like, reacted so funny when it was, like, when he found out that his, I think his, like, pace was, like, a 78. He's like, what? Like, that's ridiculous. And so I think that from a player perspective, I think it's really cool to be able to, have something to quantify your skills, I guess. But I'd be pissed off if someone said I was slow too, in a way.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a bummer to realize, like, oh, really, I'm not as fast as I thought I was because the game doesn't think so.
Well, another thing, though, is I would love to know how much, it must be a player-per-player basis, but how much time do players invest in playing FIFA? Because, it's an amazing game to just sit down, pick up real quick. If you only have 15, 20 minutes and you're like, hey, guys, let's get a quick game of FIFA. Yeah. And I've seen a couple players on social media playing quite a bit of it. So I'd love to know from a more, like, global perspective, I guess, like, how often players are playing.
I find it interesting to think that, too, because they play soccer for their professional career. Do they want to go and then play a video game about their career? Who knows? But I also think it's hilarious. You find out about, like, the total sleeper dudes who, like, no one really knew about, but, like, they have, like, 90 pace, but they're, like, ranked 70. It's just like, yo, do you know that guy? Or, like, the strongest guy in FIFA. I what's his name? I always keep forgetting his name.
It's the guy from the lower leagues.
Lower leagues. Akinfenwa, dude.
For Wimbledon?
He's the strongest FIFA player, and he has, like, they bring him the big cards. You can get the big player cards made, and, like, sometimes, like they have the special cards that come out, and FIFA will add the boost to their rating. Like, there are players like him who are like, yo, got boosted to, like, 90 fitness or, like, 90 physical overall. Like, I'm the strongest player in FIFA. And it's just, like, it creates that statistical analysis, and it's just... We were talking, I remember that there's that thing in New York that's going to start doing, like, the simulation. And
that's one of the early episodes.
Yeah, I loved that whole idea. And if I were a professional player, I would totally love the motivation of having.
So what you're speaking about is like the gamification of the sport.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. There was one instance that I found on the internet that Ibrahimovic actually came out and said that he could sit for 10 hours when he was younger and play FIFA. So 10 hours straight.
That's crazy.
That's the only thing that he would do. So they are fans. I mean,
and I bet even the professional kids who are playing now, like, probably play more than the older dudes.
Yeah.
And they probably, wow.
Yeah. But in terms of a lot of the articles that I was reading about this, in terms of from a player's perspective, is interesting. It's why do players play? And it's astonishing to see that a lot of players play because they actually want to improve their game. And I can understand this because I'm obviously not a professional athlete, but I do this for a lot of just different things in my life where I kind of mentally practice things. You know what I mean? I think we all do this sort of. We're going into a game and we're thinking, oh, maybe I'll try this move, and you're kind of repeating that in your head, practicing, creating these schemas. So if a professional player has this basically simulation tool where he can play as himself and see different patterns and movements and tricks and skills, and I can see it as a very useful tool if I want to try a new trick and I'm like, how would I do this? And kind of just be simulating that. it is a video game, but it's also a simulation. I mean, every year it's more realistic. The graphics get changed, the gravity and the way the balls bounce and everything like that, it gets changed. So from an athletic point of view, I can definitely see it as a way for you to hone your mental skills and kind of shape a schema in your head for something new that you want to try. And I think even Matt Hummels came out and said something like that sometimes you'll try something randomly in practice that you tried in FIFA just to see if you could actually do it, right? So
that is kind of interesting.
It's kind of cool that for us it's a game, but for them it's almost becoming a performance metric, performance analysis tool simulation to better their actual conditions on the pitch.
To go off of that and a little further from a player perspective, I think that because of FIFA and kind of shifting a little bit more towards like the fan side of it, I think that in terms of doing the simulation and running through it and learning these tactical things, because a lot of it is learning how to do the tricks and how to do it, but a lot of what you learn in FIFA is more tactical. It's how to set up a team formation wise. What player would you substitute here and there? I think that these games, not just FIFA, because I think that this topic could be a little bit broader with Football Manager and also PES, basically footballing games in general, they allow you to really dive deep into tactical analysis and formation wise. So I find it interesting because nowadays, if you have someone very young who loves soccer talking to an older fellow, an older gentleman or an older woman who loves soccer, the conversation for the younger kids can center a lot around formation-wise, and kids learn a lot more about 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 3-5-2, all of these different formations that maybe the older guys didn't care about. Maybe back in the day, you didn't really analyze that side of the game. You would just watch the product on the field. You wouldn't think about how would I set up the team in terms of would I substitute this guy in left back or that guy here based on different metrics? Before you would just do it on a gut feeling. You'd be like, I don't like this dude for right back. I want to put this guy over here. But now because you've been playing FIFA your whole life, you have the knowledge of being like, oh, I think that a 4-2-3-1 works really well if you have a target man as a center forward. And these kind of like really awesome analytical things you can do now because of this game. And I think that in terms of a learning tool, I think FIFA's phenomenal to teach younger kids the more tactical sides of the game that, sure, you could learn it in a regular season, but you'll never learn it as fast as if you were to pick up a manager mode on FIFA and be like, all right, how am I going to set up my team today? And so I think that aspect of it is a really interesting one in terms of a learning tool. And really where I think that FIFA shines is how it really brings together the popularity of soccer in the U.S. I think that FIFA as a game has transcended soccer. I think that, like we said, you have a lot of people, in colleges who one of the articles we were reading, it says it's the perfect dorm room game. Yeah. And that's true. When I went to school, I had friends who they might have dabbled with a little bit of pickup soccer at some point in their lives, but they were by no means fans. Yeah. They would sit and play FIFA for hours in the dorm room. You know what I mean? We've played FIFA, as kids do in college. Every goal is a drink. You know what I mean? And so it became like a pregame game, and it just kind of transcended soccer.
Yeah, and it's funny because obviously anyone that's gone through that experience can relate that it is such a good dorm room game because it's so fast-paced and it's short. It's not like playing Madden where it's 2 hours long and you have to really know where this guy's running around and blah, blah, blah. It's something that can get done quick. You can score 6 million goals in a game and really make it exciting, which is a juxtaposition to what the actual game can be. Yeah. At times it can be pretty boring. And I think that's a part of why the video game version of soccer has exploded so much, because when you're invested in a team, obviously a 1-0 win might be really exciting. But when you have no real investment in a team and don't have that emotional connection, you want excitement. I mean, that's when I watch the NBA. Yeah, I like the Celtics, but I don't love them. They're not the sport that I love. So I just want to watch a really good game, high scoring, blah, blah, blah. So for the American population that's used to that and may not have investment in a team, getting to play a game that's a 4-minute half, so 8-minute total game, score 5 goals, maybe get scored on 3 times, have that emotion of, damn, I just got scored on, or damn, I just scored a nice-ass goal, is really important because it allows you to feel emotion for the sport. right?
Yeah, so my question to you is, do you think, so for the casual soccer fan, they, like you said, they want excitement. A big argument against soccer in the U.S. is it's a boring game. My question is, do you think that FIFA allows you to appreciate the game? Because my personal feeling on this is that if you play FIFA, maybe you because you said it's fast-paced, it's fun, you can score a bunch of goals, does that make you appreciate a 0-0 draw more because you get to go through the tacticalness of the game?
Oh.
I guess it wouldn't make me appreciate 0-0 more, but I think for
good 0-0.
Good 0-0, but for the casual player, I don't think it would ever change them. No. I think for the casual player, they want to see the crazy goals that happen in FIFA, and it happens in FIFA a lot if you're pretty good, like, and you're playing against someone who is not that good.
Yeah.
Like, and then I would think that sometimes they would want those teams in real life to, like, well, if I can do this in FIFA, like, why can't they be scoring goals? Like, this team is way worse. Like, their rating on FIFA is way worse, but then they may upset the other team.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
I disagree a little bit. I think that you can get a lot of high scoring games in FIFA, but you also get a lot of games that are just 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 that are close, contested that 90 minute.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen videos of people losing in the 90th minute off of a header corner goal and they throw their remote through a TV, right? So I think that for a casual fan, if that's happening to them and they get that loss or victory that's in the dying minutes of a game, they feel that emotion, that rush of anger or happiness, they kind of can translate that onto the field and be like, well, I know that this is a video game and it's obviously easier. And if I felt this emotion, imagine if this were kind of translated onto the pitch. So I kind of disagree. I think that it's not going to happen for everyone, obviously, because that's
hey, you guys are some highly intellectual video gamers. That's the case.
No, but I do think that you can correlate sort of the difficulty of that from a video game, because you know that the video game is supposed to be made easier than obviously a professional sport. If I'm a casual fan and I am winning a lot of games or losing a lot of games by 1 goal, I can be like, well, damn, maybe these 1-0 wins in the actual sport aren't that boring, right? They actually have some emotional meaning behind it.
Right. I 100% think that you playing FIFA every day makes you appreciate soccer a little bit more. At least from a perspective of if you didn't know much about the game but you picked up FIFA and started playing, I think that's been a gateway for a lot of people into the sport. And so you read a lot of articles, or you can see this online, even with your friends too. People who just picked up FIFA, decided to pick one team on one game for a little bit, and they just played with that one team, and that became their team in the future. You know what I mean? You had kids who probably in 2008 started playing with Barcelona, and to this day, now they support Barcelona. So now taking it outside of the game, I think that FIFA can allow you to become a fan.
Right.
In the similar way that we were talking about last week in terms of how to become fans, of soccer teams in the U.S., I think FIFA is something that we probably didn't mention much last week, or at all, actually. Yeah. But I think is a big contributing factor to a lot of people. Right. I think that you're through FIFA, you're able to live a fan experience by also playing with a team, and it allows you to become emotionally invested, right?
Right. Well, imagine Mo Salah now in FIFA is not 92. I saw this morning, and his pace,
he's player of the month.
His pace is ridiculous, right? So if I'm a new player in FIFA and I pick up the controller, I Google best players in FIFA. Mo Salah shows up. I pick Mo Salah. I love how fast he is. Next time I go to play, I'm probably going to pick him again because I'm comfortable with them, and I liked how fast Mo Salah was. Repeated that. Repeat, until all of a sudden, what team do you play with? I only play with Liverpool because of Mo Salah. But now you understand when you see Mo Salah on ESPN or when you see the random soccer reference on NBC Sports, you kind of have that emotional connection to Liverpool, and maybe you watch a game. Maybe you're like, okay, let me see Mo Salah in real life. Mo Salah's been on fire, so Mo Salah scores his hat trick of the day. That's slow progression, but I think it's definitely something that can happen. It's not going to happen for everyone, but if you're getting 5%, 10% of people that are playing FIFA to transition over and turn on their TV and see the game, that's pretty big growth, right?
Yeah.
Even anything under
I'll give you that
digits, I think that's something definitely possible.
I think that the people I've ever only really played with, they could give a rat's ass about.
Yeah. Well, but in terms of the college experience, right? I had friends in college, people that lived on my dorm room floor, didn't know shit about soccer. Didn't know anything about soccer. But say they only played with, I think at the time, one kid would only play with PSG because of Ibrahimovic, right? Anytime I saw him in the hallway, he would know, oh, Ibra's playing tonight, but he had no idea about soccer. He went on ESPN regularly, so he got that exposure to it, knew when Ibrahimovic scored, always would play with PSG. So it kind of, he may not be a fan, but he was more exposed to it, and he kind of understood
I would say he is a fan. Maybe he's not a
diehard fan, maybe, yeah, no. Fan. But yeah, I guess he was checking up on it and kind of seeing, then sure, that's a very low-level fan, but a fan. And I think, yeah, it definitely makes it easier to support a team if you're playing FIFA.
And I think
I'll give you that. That's true.
I think
Did I just convert you?
Not to the majority of people being converted to soccer fans, but the percentage of kids who end up falling in love with a player. Yeah, definitely.
That's enough for me.
I also think it's a big generational thing too. Clearly, because video games were not popular or to this level, 20 years ago, at least in this form, and even 30, 40 years ago, they didn't have them. So I think that from a generational standpoint, FIFA then spans off into so many other different things. And so, you have a lot of people creating dedicated YouTube channels to talk about
making a living
off of YouTube channels on simply, these guys will open up FIFA Ultimate Team packs. And it's just their reaction to opening
just like collection. FIFA has this almost like
microtransaction
of collecting player cards that you get there.
Which basically you can create like a fantasy team, and you can put Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar, Sergio Ramos, Jerome Boateng, all on the same team or whatever. And it basically allows you to create like your own fantasy team through the game. And basically you have these guys making reaction videos to them opening a pack, and they're getting hundreds of thousands of views. These kids are super dedicated to watching FIFA, people opening packs, which is like they're not even playing the game. People are watching these videos,
right?
But I think the generation of kids watching video games we were missed by that. I think I don't watch it as much.
I don't think it's definitely a younger generation that has. Our generation is definitely more into the like internet in general, but the younger generation below us is more really subscribed into YouTube and watching everything on their computer screen as opposed to TV, which I think translates well and is a big reason why they are so into the channels that do this.
Yeah.
But in terms of making a living, now FIFA has opened up another gateway for people that aren't athletic, or maybe they could be athletic, because we've even seen ex-professional players. There's a player who won a Puskas Award for best goal of the season, a Brazilian player actually, who is now an e-gamer.
Oh wow!
He won a Puskas Awards for goal of the year.
Really?
And now he's an e-gamer. I'll have to find his name. But you're seeing this new gateway of you can use soccer as a way to make money.
If you're not an athlete,
right? If you're not an athlete. But it's giving kids, younger generations, people that are playing video games, opportunities that they may have never had before. I mean, for example, Rachel's brother goes to the University of Utah, went there to visit, and they brought out, I don't know if they're one of the only few schools in the world, they're e-gaming students who went to the school because of e-gaming. Some of the kids there are on scholarships.
As a major?
As a major.
That's amazing.
I was the most envious person. I don't think I've ever felt that much envy in my entire life for some of the kids there that were on full rides because they were just playing video games.
What I find funny is, like, our generation, like you said, we missed this. I grew up playing video games. Like, I spent every single day playing video games. If it was an option as a kid,
I told my mom that. I was like, I would have never, ever studied. I would have just played video games.
If I was 11 years old and I knew that down the line there would be an opportunity to become an eSports college-sponsored athlete, I would definitely.
Yeah, and we're seeing now that MLS is starting the E-League. So every team now in the MLS...
Are they forced to play with their own team?
I think they are.
I think they are, because... Imagine people are like, man, I'm going to play for the freaking Rams. It's great.
Think about it. The MLS is bringing in an eSports league to represent that each team will have signed players for. They'll have a PS4 player, an Xbox player to play as their team
to represent them
in a competition, a virtual competition for video games. That's unheard of.
Which is crazy, because now you start to think of soccer as not just a sport, but as a phenomenon, as a you know, if New York City FC, they have signed 2 guys. Well, like you said, one guy who plays PS4, one guy who plays Xbox. Think about it. They are a New York City FC player. Maybe they're not David Villa's teammate.
Go on their website and find them as like a roster
and
player.
The guy is, you know what I mean? Maybe he's not David Villa's teammate, but he represents New York City FC digitally.
That's insane.
So it's this crazy gap that's being bridged with the sport that transcends the sport. And I think it's amazing that the MLS decided to fully embrace this and say, all right, we're going to have the eMLS Cup or whatever it's called. And for them, that is embracing the future, which is crazy to me. Like that, this is a great move by them, but it's hard to wrap your head around if you're, you know, for us maybe a little bit easier because, you know, we're a little bit younger, but anybody who's probably older than this, it's probably hard to wrap their head around this situation.
Oh, yeah, and teams know what they're doing because they see how popular it is. Like Wolfsburg, they have a player who they've signed, and they run competitions regularly where you play in a FIFA tournament and you get a chance to play their pro player in the stadium before a game.
That's so cool.
Right? So we're seeing these things happening that are just... But if I'm a young kid and I'm like, oh, shit, I get to play inside Wolfsburg Stadium, I'm going to play FIFA all freaking day, get good, beat everyone, but it think of the connection that makes. It makes you think Wolfsburg as a team is so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
If I'm a young kid and I'm like, holy shit, I get
That's
to
a
play.
good marketing campaign.
Right? So, yes, it's this virtual reality, but it's this virtual reality that has, I think anyone that's played FIFA, that has almost as much emotion as the real game. It's obviously it's a microcosm of that, but if I'm throwing my remote at a wall, which I have done when I was younger, there's definitely emotion in it. And if that's that emotion, if clubs are using that emotion as a way to connect back with them, that growth for the sport of soccer is enormous.
Without a doubt.
Just before we move on, one thing that I really find very interesting is that during the EFL Cup between City and Arsenal, during halftime, they played the same game, City versus Arsenal, on the big screen at Wembley. They had just guys playing, and they were just standing out on the pitch. So it's like halftime during a real game, and you can play a FIFA game of the same teams at the stadium on the big screen where 80,000 people just watched you play FIFA during halftime of a big game. It's a really cool way of just getting people engaged. But I think that one big question in terms of this is, you know, did the popularity of FIFA, the video game, cause the rise of popularity of professional soccer in America, or is it the other way around? We've kind of hit on this a little bit, but I want to...
The rise of FIFA popularized the growth of soccer in the U.S.
Or the other way around?
That's a good question, Louis. I'm mixed on this. I think yes, somewhat. I want to accredit that more to the rise of streaming games that have happened in the U.S. with NBC Sports getting contracts and deciding to play more than just Manchester United here in the U.S. But yes, FIFA plays a role. I don't want to say FIFA was the biggest role or biggest contributor to that, but out of the realm of this, out of the possibility of things that could increase the interest in the sport here in the U.S., I think FIFA is top 3 reasons. I'd say streaming, FIFA, and maybe just the random World Cup occurrences that bring people together behind a team, right? So I think FIFA probably contributes to, I don't know. I want to give a number. I'm going to say like 25% of that rise is because of FIFA. And because the U.S. is a country that loves playing video games, or kids love playing video games.
I would say the FIFA percentage is a little higher, only because eSports as a whole is getting popular. Mm-hmm. They see how much money eSports makes, so therefore these teams in the MLS are going to be like, well, eSports could make us money, so let's reach and tap that, which I think motivates. It's kind of like capitalistic in a way, but like motivates 100%. The kids to become like the next big esports athlete. I think they need a little bit more than just FIFA to become, I think, a fan. They need to hit like FIFA and hit the World Cup right in that, like this summer. Like we got some great Premier League fans coming out. Just wait.
Yeah. No, I Yeah, that's a great question because it's so hard to put it all on a few things, right? The growth of a sport and the growth of a culture behind it. But it would be foolish of me not to say that it has. I do think that it counts for a large chunk of the popularity, especially now. I think that FIFA, just how advanced it is and how much you can hear fans chanting actual chants in the stadium. If I'm experiencing that as a kid just playing a video game, I can see that influencing me and being like, oh, soccer's kind of cool. So, yeah, I'll credit it.
I think that it served as the catalyst. I think that a big part of this, like we spoke about a couple weeks ago, is that, last week, we talked about how for the longest time we didn't have access like we do today to all these games on NBC Sports and Fox Sports 1 and all this stuff. So, prior to getting the access to these EPL games and prior to getting the access to these global games, we had FIFA. We've had FIFA in the U.S., the game, since it started coming out, but it started getting popular, 2005, 2006, and kids have been playing that all that time. And I think that, access to the EPL games on a large scale happened, like we said, in 2011, 2012. And so I think that soccer would have grown at a decent pace in the U.S. without FIFA, but I think that because FIFA has existed throughout this growth, it served as the catalyst to, I think triple how quickly this has grown because it allowed kids access to soccer in a way that made sense to them, whereas before it was inaccessible because it was this brand new, it was a completely foreign sport, it was a completely foreign idea. But I think that because it was a game and people in America, like you said, love video games, it was an easy access point into soccer. And so then once all of these things came into place, like the EPL TV rights being, broadcast to everybody, it then allowed a lot of people to really get into the game easily. And so that exponentially made the growth a lot faster, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think that it really, really did provide an amazing catalyst to get people super involved with soccer. But, kind of linking both of these things together, where do we see this continuing to go? In other words, let me rephrase it. Esports and actual physical soccer. What is the future of this? What do we think the growth is going to be? What do we think?
I think the growth, sorry to cut you off before you were going to start, but I think that the growth of esports is going to blow up exponentially. I think it's growing fast, but in terms of the U.S., I think we're going to start seeing more schools doing the sponsorships, more teams having more players, maybe creating teams of players that play FIFA because of the reason that I mentioned before of it is so exciting to watch and see people's emotions playing the game. It is that microcosm of the actual sport, and it's almost more accessible to young fans who can't afford a ticket to the game, right? A lot of these games nowadays are expensive to get to. You can't afford to go, but I could hop on YouTube and watch a live stream of my team playing their esports thing, right? Because there's no licensing on it right now. Teams just go on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitch. Show whatever it may be. Twitch, how big is Twitch now? But I think it's still Twitch is huge, but it's still small compared to other platforms, right? So Revs have a player and they throw it on and I can watch that player win the tournament. I think that there's still so much room to grow. So I think that with the growth of the sport, more people are going to be interested in it. With the growth of FIFA, more people are going to be interested in the sport, the actual physical sport. But I think that as an e-gaming console and as an e-gaming platform, there's a lot of room to grow. And it makes me happy because with that growth, I think there will be a correlation in growth for the sport.
I agree. The only thing that I worry is that the e-gaming industry, FIFA may not become as popular as it currently is with like the microtransactions and the people playing online. I think FIFA needs to somehow boost themselves to kind of make it that next level. Like, you are a professional esports athlete, there has to be something about some aspect of FIFA that you are fucking nasty at.
Yeah.
That other than just like, oh, I use the best team. I have the best this. So I think when you can start like individualizing players to be like some part of like an esports phenomenon, that'd be kind of cool. But I think positive correlation, soccer gets more popular, FIFA gets more popular.
Yeah. I definitely think both grow at the same time.
Do you think the esports side of FIFA will ever eclipse the actual popularity of soccer? Reason I ask is because linking back to something that Brennan said earlier about how a lot of players who play FIFA aren't super attached to a team necessarily because of the globalization of the game and the ability to play with any team on FIFA. You have a lot of kids growing up who are without a team. They love the game, they love the sport, but they are teamless. So my question is, do you think that basically based off of that piece of knowledge, do you think that the FIFA e-gaming could ever get bigger than the phenomenon of supporting a real life team?
I don't think so, just because when you think of esports, I don't often think of a one-person thing. I think of a team that plays like Overwatch or a team that plays like a 5v5.
Well, you can get 11v11 FIFA online. What if they moved into that situation?
That would be cool. And if they had a different viewing table instead of like top down, bird's eye view or whatever, like the TV view of it, if there was a way to like make
a squad play.
Yeah,
basically imagine being a
like if you had a
gamer but you were a designated right back,
exactly,
as an e-gamer,
that would then have the potential to eclipse it, I think.
Yeah,
because you could be the best fucking right back in the world
in
esports.
Yeah, it would be ignorant of me to say that no, it can't eclipse it, because who knows what happens in 20 years time, let alone 100, right? So is the potential there? Absolutely. I keep harping on it. The emotions there, and what people connect to are emotions. So absolutely, sure, if there's a guy, the Cristiano Ronaldo or the Messi of e-gaming, and I look up to him and I think that, and as the competition grows for the e-gaming community for FIFA, that's going to happen. Eventually you're going to have superstars, you're going to have people that are making the big bucks. Sure. And as the globalization of the actual sport happens, maybe the passion for a certain club goes down in that end. So for me to say that it won't, I think would be ignorant of me. But the other side of it, I don't want it to, because I love the actual physical sport of it. So it's a bit hypocritical, but I do see that absolutely it could happen, because it just in terms of our society, technology is taking over everywhere we look. Everybody knows that already, but so to say that our society already loves going on Facebook and spending 6 million hours on it, why not watch someone play video games and on this virtual reality?
Yeah. I think one important thing to note, though, is that, it is a game, but it's based on real life people and real life clubs. So I think that's really the only thing that might really cement the growth of both together. So I actually don't think we'll ever get to a point where one will be more popular than the other. I can see them being equally as popular because they're codependent, right? I think that, for you to have someone who only plays with PSG, who because they love Ibrahimovic, or you have people who strictly only play with Barcelona, you have to have Barcelona exist. You have to have Messi, Suarez, Neymar on Barcelona to have that team, right? And you can say, oh, but there's like transfers on FIFA. Sure, but you still have to have the players existing to be able to quantify them in a ranking.
My question, so FIFA has the option, I think we've played it, where you can create your own player and play as that single player on a team of 11. What if there was a way, right? You can upgrade your player and make their players better, but what if that becomes the way that you watch a team? So you are controlling your virtual self, basically, and you're only playing with him. You're basically a player, right?
Yeah.
Why not then? Can I support Alan Arujo in FIFA, where he is a 98 player playing for a random team? Sure, but I fall in love with how good this player is that controls it.
So I can 100% see that, but I think the global appeal of this is my opinion, could be 100% wrong, but wrong. I think the global appeal of watching someone play FIFA is still rooted in the aspect of, I like this player because he plays on this team, or I really like watching this specific e-gamer play as Barcelona or as Manchester United. I still think that if you start going down the rabbit hole of every player having their own player customizable and everything, it starts to lose a little bit of its grounding in reality, which is why I think a lot of people like FIFA. But then again, I could be wrong. I could be maybe I'm an older head. Maybe I think that
well, because I'm just thinking like if MLS teams are starting to hire one guy to play as the whole team, I can see it going as I hire 11 guys and we make a squad.
That'd be fun.
B was just saying how fun he thinks that would be to watch.
But I think it would be hard to play. They need to figure out some way to play because you can't play with like first person because then you guys would need to be talking constantly.
Yeah, but you could have
that's how you
could have
so.
the camera be the exact same camera angle for the viewer it is for a real life game, but then for the play it's a third layer where they're seeing it in their
perspective, first person. We're seeing it first live view.
First live view, right? Okay. So why not?
That'd be crazy.
That's
cool.
actually, I think this is a crazy topic to think about because what if FIFA does get to that point where no one even cares about the real players anymore? That's where I think this could actually, I think this could actually eclipse it.
I don't want that to happen. I'm saying I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I think it's something that's
soccer of the future will be virtual reality.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on, but I think that these two things are married forever. I think that the popularity of the sport is going to dictate the popularity of the game, vice versa. I think that they both pull away from each other and pull together, and they're always connected.
I will say, though, I am definitely bummed out that they've stopped making the FIFA World Cup games.
Well, no, but
now they just have an update for
those FIFA World Cup games freaking sucked.
They sucked, but they were very nostalgic to play. Yeah, you could score from like half.
Yeah,
I remember those.
I hated those games.
I actually really enjoyed the last
was
FIFA
it South Africa?
I wish they brought back FIFA Street, yo. That game was sick.
That was tight. Or if they just had like a futsal version on the FIFA 18.
Yeah.
Like just like, want to play futsal?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
FIFA, we have so many ideas.
Hit us up.
Yeah. But okay, I think that's it for today. We ended on a little bit of Inception 2030 ideas. That's fine. That's the future.
Where will soccer take us?
So yeah, let's see where soccer and FIFA go in the future.
And another great episode is in the books. We really got to see the interesting perspective of what FIFA has become and the implications of that on the real game, the eSports world, and where will it go from here. So thanks for listening in. We hope you're around for our next episode next week. Another great topic is ready for your earballs.